What is going on, everybody? Anon here, and happy Friday. Is it Friday? No, it's Saturday evening. I don't even know what day it is. And tonight we're going to ramble a little bit, and we're going to talk about Wizards of the Coast slash Hasbro. They're at a crossroads, and I want to walk through some of the numbers. I want to walk through why they're doing what they're doing, and basically the fact that the bar is so high for numbers coming in the future. I'm not sure they have a solution other than oversaturate the market to get to that point, because theoretically, if they try to recalibrate earnings to something that they're able to hit by pulling back print runs, the stock risks getting smashed, and then they risk some sort of hostile takeover. Now, the stock's sitting at $93, $94 now. Not the case because it's way overvalued. But I want to go through this because there's been a lot of misinformation, especially around why certain products have been removed. Um, you know, I've seen multiple people say that Lord of the Rings set is out of print. It is in fact not. In fact, it is coming. Supposed to be in Q1. I'm guessing it probably pushes to Q2 for a reason you'll see here. But I pulled a snippet here, and this is from Tulare Community College. And I don't always agree with what he says, but in this scenario, I agree 100%. Now, he was talking specifically about how Wizards of the Coast is removing a lot of the fun from the game. Now, he didn't get to the actual reason why, other than to make more money, which was 100% accurate. But they've done things such as they've removed the pre-release promos with the stamps on. They've removed buy a box promos. They removed the collector sample pack. It says collector boosters here, but it's a collector sample pack. And I believe I told everybody all the way back in September, I was at the Alliance open house and I spoke to the WotC rep who was there. And I asked something about Commander reprints, and he made the comment, not knowing that he was talking to me, that Commander sample pack, he said, I think Commander sample packs are no longer going to be starting in Lorwyn, or starting in the next set after Avatar. I don't think Lorwyn was spoiled at that point. I'm not quite sure. It was like September 14th, 15th, something like that. So it kind of caught me off guard. And I said to him, well, why would that be? And his direct quote was, it's slowing down the printing process, because instead of just cutting sheet after sheet after sheet, you now have to randomize. You have to create a randomized pack, and then you have to insert it in each one of the commander decks. Removing that effectively streamlines the process. And I thought about that, and I'm like, holy shit. These guys are effectively running Six Sigma, not on streamlining the manufacturing process on the manufacturing side, but by streamlining the SKUs and what ancillary fun stuff they're printing, because it's inefficient and it's slowing down the print process. Now, at the time, we didn't know about buy a box promos. We didn't know about the pre-release promos, but shortly thereafter, they announced they're no longer going to print buy a box promos, which, just the logistics around sending them to each LGS is a nightmare compared to everything else. It's a waste of money. And then with the pre-release promos, and I didn't even realize this until Lorwyn, not having the stamp cards, which they're not printing a lot of them. And quite honestly, it's a pain in the butt to collate and put them into the pre-release kits. They're removing it so they can print faster, presumably so they can get to the point where they just added a 7 set this year. Next year, they may add an 8 set. Now, they obviously said they're only doing 6 sets next year, but that dog doesn't hunt. We'll see this shortly. So they're effectively removing all the fun, cool stuff because they need to print faster. It's slowing down the process. It is financially inefficient. So this is the corporate animal we're dealing with. And I know a lot of you out there just think the Hasbro folks are stupid. They're idiots. They're not. They're very, very intelligent. This is all very deliberate. And they are thinking like a corporation because, quite honestly, it is their job. It's not their job to make the game fun. It's not their job to make sure that there's product there when people want it, see Final Fantasy play. It is their job to hit their quarterly numbers, make money, and generate value for shareholders, which they have not done in at least a decade. But I digress. So that's where I make the comment all the time that a TCG has no business being in a publicly traded company, because you see these short-term decisions that are super short-sighted that just don't make any sense to us as players, us as LGSs, etc. So what I want to do is I want to look at, first of all, I'm going to blow this up a little bit here so it's not as much of an eye chart. And we'll get to all the different items on here. There's a lot of noise on the slide, but it's all stuff I want to speak to. So I figured, we'll just go to different pieces. So in 2024, Q1 was $230 million. These are millions. Q2, 336. Q3 took a step backwards at 296. Q4 was 208. Terrible. So $1,079 million of revenue. This is only for Magic the Gathering. So this is tabletop. This is online, arena, Magic the Gathering online. Now, I haven't been able to find a breakout of what is tabletop versus electronic. I'm sure they do that for a reason. I'm sure the online portion is very, very flat. Could potentially be down, could potentially be up a couple percentage points, but it's nowhere near what's happening with tabletop. Now, if we go to 2025, Q1 was 346, Q2 was 412, Q5 was 459, and Q3 was 459. The Q4 estimate, and this is a consensus estimate on Wall Street, is $392, and this is for Magic the Gathering specifically. So the total numbers for 2025, approximately, the earnings come out, I think, in a week or two, a 1.6 million up from just under 1.1. So that's almost 50% growth year over year, which is astronomical. But what I want to look at is let's look at the main set releases in 2025. So in Q1, we had Innistrad Remastered, Aether Drift. Innistrad Remastered was kind of Aether Drift came out really, really hot and then fell off a cliff. Q2, we had Tarkir Dragonstorm, which was huge hit. Started slow. Then when the spoilers came out, it was a huge hit. Final Fantasy, obviously the biggest set of all time. Q3, we had Edge of Eternities, and then Spider-Man. And then Q4, we had Avatar, The Last Airbender. Now, let's delete that there because I have it down below. Now, those numbers in and of itself don't really support the revenue numbers here. And I have all the data. I just need time to put it together for the third part of my Breaking Hasbro series where I can start talking about how much product is going through distribution based on what I see, what I know, what I'm told, and try to back into A, what the online revenue number is, and B, just trying to backfill and calculate what the real numbers are now. Obviously, there's going to be gaps. There's going to be estimates. There's going to be some big box store stuff, Costco, Sam's. Certainly not as prevalent as Pokemon, but there are certainly sales. So let's talk about major reprints. And if I missed anything here, feel free to correct in the comments. Kind of went back in time a little bit. So Q1, and again, I don't remember if this was end of December or if it was in January, because remember, when distribution takes delivery of the product, at that point in time, it is revenue toward Wizards of the Coast. They do not have to sell it to us. Now, if Amazon sells a product to somebody, you can cancel at any point in time. Until that product is shipped, it is not revenue to Wizards of the Coast. So very important distinction. So when we saw in Q3, all of the Spider-Man stuff going to distribution, all the collector boxes, presumably from Amazon, it's because the second they sold them to distribution, it's revenue. If they would have kept them at Amazon and slowly trickled them out as people bought them, it would not have been revenue. It would have just been basically inventory on consignment. So in Q1, and again, Duskborn and Bloomburrow and Ixalan Commander, I think it was January. I'm not quite sure, but you have those three commanders, Bloomburrow play. Q2, we had Foundations play, Bloomburrow play. Again, this was the end of Q2. We had Ixalan set boxes and Wilds of Eldraine set boxes. Pretty good number of those. Both of those coming around for restock probably in the next month or two. They're both scheduled for Q1. Again, could push to Q2 just based on earnings management. Choosing when to parachute the product in, pun intended. Q3, this was August timeframe, August, September. Duskborn Commander, Bloomburrow Commander, and I highlighted in light green here, significant volume of reprints. So Bloomburrow Commander is pretty much available everywhere. They dumped the crap out of this. Ixalan Commander, Final Fantasy Commander, same situation. Pretty much everybody still has it. Same with Spider-Man play. They dumped Spider-Man play 4 weeks after Spider-Man released when it was in the tank because these guys assumed Spider-Man was going to be a home run. And they were going to pile on with play boxes. because they needed revenue in Q3 because they were going from 300 million to 460 million. And Edge of Eternities, the in-universe sets are limited. And for those of you who just want to revisit history for a second, Wizards has tested the fence on a ton of things. Now they've been testing the fence on number of sets in a year. They're testing the fence on frequency of secret layers, which the reason why you see so many secret layers is because they're scared shitless that Turtles is not going to sell very well, and it's not selling very well on Amazon. Now, I think it's going to be a pretty good set. Looks like the power level's good, but nobody's going to pay MSRP for anything or for play boxes for certain on Amazon. So they're dumping secret layers, being proactive because they know they're going to have a challenge hitting Q1 revenue numbers. It's also why we got Bloomborough play in Q1, a ton of it. And that's also why they split Edge of Eternities into a small wave 1 hitting in Q4 and a much larger wave in Q1 of 2026 for that very reason. So Spider-Man play. Then we go to Q4. We have Edge of Eternities Commander, Aether Drift Commander. Both of these, I believe, were tentatively scheduled for January. Final Fantasy play, and this is the bogey I want to talk about. So for the longest time, everybody was talking about limitations on printing and print capacity and how Wizards is behind. Well, when we got the Final Fantasy play boxes in October, November, the print stamp on everything is March of 2025. They printed all of this product early in the year, and they decided to ship it out in Q4 because that's when they needed the revenue. There wasn't any print issues. There was no capacity issues. It was all bullshit. They decided they were going to parachute this in Q4 because they had a huge hurdle of $392 million, and they only had one set in Q4, which was Avatar. So they planned this to backfill for the fact that there's only one set in Q4 because they needed the revenue. Tarkir play, all three of these still in stock, pretty much everywhere. Tarkir is starting to lighten up a little bit. We have Edge of Eternities play part 1. This was pretty light. Avatar play, same thing. 6 weeks after release, they just dump more on the market because they need the revenue. And then Tarkir Commander, there was a lot of this. I checked today. It looks like PhD only has like 350 in total across all their warehouses. So that's almost gone. So we can see that as time passes, they have to print more or drop more and more reprints on the market. Now, the challenge is as the numbers go up for 2026, and unfortunately, I didn't have time to get any of the analyst estimates by quarter for 2026. I got to make that a priority and figure that out. Commander reprints, we're now dealing with the law of large numbers. So Commander reprints, and I think this is why we got all of the Edge and all of the Bloomborough stuff in before we got, for example, Lord of the Rings Commander, Karlov Commander, OTJ Commander is going to come at some point, Doctor Who again, potentially Fallout. Again, those of you who keep parroting the fact that Lord of the Rings is out of print, it's not out of print. There's more coming. It's confirmed to come. So are set boxes. So don't listen to the bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. So, they're printing all this stuff to get to revenue numbers. But if you look at a pallet of Bloomborough is about 700 boxes, give or take, right? 600 boxes, whatever the number is. 600 boxes of Bloomborough is basically $60,000 to distribution. Just assume about $100 a box. A pallet of Commander displays, it's about $95 to distribution, and there's like 200 208 depending on the size if it's a small slim one. So that's only 20,000. So you have to ship 3 times the number of Commander displays to generate the same revenue that you're generating sending play boxes. So as we get into Q1 and Q2, I'm relatively certain the reason why they've pushed back some of these Commander reprints is because they needed a much larger magnitude of a buffer to get to their revenue numbers, aka Edge play, Final Fantasy play, Tarkir play, Bloomborough play, which was probably 100 1,000 plus boxes here in Q1, which quite honestly just it vaporized in 3 seconds because there was so much demand for it. So let's move on to 2026. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. So Lauren obviously did very well. And again, getting back to testing the fence, they're testing the fence on a number of sets, but they've tested the fence on how much product they can print from a volume of SKU perspective. When we saw that during the Cynthia Williams Amazon dump days, which we're probably back to now, they're overprinting, trying to cramp down everybody's throat. And then once the market's saturated, kind of the game's over. They're pretty much screwed at that point because once the market's saturated and nobody wants it, it's dead money and they can't sell that product to distribution. So that sales channel is effectively closed. And that's what we're starting to see with some of the product here. Now, we're not quite there yet. Obviously, things are moving. But they can't dump more Bloomburrow Commander or Final Fantasy Commander on distribution. Now somebody would potentially take it, but Edge and Aether Drift, nobody's going to buy any more of that at this point. So you start to reduce the number of SKUs you can sell to distribution one at a time because the overall perception market is as these things get saturated and the price gets smashed, nobody wants to touch it. So again, when prices go down, people don't want to buy it. When prices go up, everybody's racing to new highs. So why we're seeing what we're seeing now, in my opinion, is because Turtles has been selling relatively poorly on Amazon. Everybody knows it. Everybody can see it. It's not selling great quite yet on TCG Player, 10, 15 play boxes a day. Now, we haven't seen spoilers. We've seen the mythics and the rares spoiled, but we haven't seen, I think we saw Doubling Season for special guests. We haven't seen anything else. So I think all bets are off there. But we're seeing all these secret layers and all this bullshit, chaos, whatever, secret layer, all these random ones that are getting dropped. The ones that they're dropping, was that Fallout, where they printed so damn much, they're just taking advantage of the bots and ripping their face off because they need the revenue. They are going to be short in Q1. And I am relatively certain that Wall Street estimate's going to probably be much closer to 400 million than it is to 346. So now you have much better performing sets than you had with Innistrad and Aether Drift. The volume of Lauren on the market is probably 20% higher than Aether Drift, which is good if you're Wizards. If you're us, not so much. So moving to Q2, and this is where you have a huge hurdle because you have Final Fantasy. You have Strixhaven, which is most likely going to perform this similar to Lorwyn. And again, your in-universe set, they're only going to do so many things. However, when we look at Strixhaven and Marvel, and I have these down here, they've started to get creative and create new SKUs. So now you have a separate gift bundle that has 2 collector packs in. You have this game night bundle that has 1 collector pack and 12 plate boosters. So now they're testing how many SKUs can they cram down people's throats because they know they can only print so much. And they've already tripped that. I mean, with Turtles, it looks like they've cut back the amount they're shipping to distribution relatively significantly because they know if they fuck this one up, everybody else is going to say, you just destroyed 3 IPs in a row. Why would we let you do that to our IP? And I know we had some people in Discord say that, well, why does Hasbro care? Well, they care because they're trying to attract people to buy the cards by selling to IPs that people want. People that don't play Magic. So they're trying to expand the total addressable market of each one of these sets. And that's why it matters. Because why would I give my IP or license my IP to Hasbro after I just saw them shit on Spider-Man? Avatar was okay. If they shit on Turtles, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Marvel? The bar's going to be pretty goddamn low because everybody saw what happened with Spider-Man. Now, The Hobbit could be great, but again, they're probably going to print the living hell out of it. Because again, there's only one set in Q3. So you have these 2 sets in Q2. You have The Hobbit, and I put this big red square here because they're going to need another set. There's no way The Hobbit is going to carry them. If Final Fantasy barely carried them to 412 million with Tarkir, and Foundations and Bloomburrow and Ixalan and Wild Set printed heavily, there's no way The Hobbit is going to carry them in Q3. My guess is Q3 is going to be another Master Set, Modern Horizons 4, some sort of massive. might be when we get the next Final Fantasy Play reprint. Almost certain of that, or potentially Q2. But then you go to Q4. Q4 is a little easier because you have Reality Fracture, and then you have Star Trek. Now, Star Trek most likely is going to perform worse than Avatar. Most people I know who like Star Trek are 70 plus years old. So it's a little funky there, and you can see all the reprints that they needed just to get anywhere close to this number. And I'm almost certain they're going to hit that 392 and probably beat it by a little bit. But my point being is to hit these numbers in 2026, they're going to have to reprint and ship everything that can be reprinted that they can sell. And it's going to start to create saturation in the market across far more SKUs than there are today. Now, they could probably print as much Lord of the Rings as they wanted to right now. But if they try to hit it a second time, if they overprint it the first time, it could take 9 months, 12 months to work through the system. And at that point, your time's up because when you're living quarter to quarter, you have a 3-month window to hit to basically succeed. And when they saturate the market, Final Fantasy and Bloomburrow, those came in November. We're now 3 months past and they're still saturated. Nobody's buying them. They're not moving. Now, I shouldn't say they're not moving. They're moving very, very slowly because unless, there's folks such as myself or, a bunch of other stores that are buying them to get their spend up because they know at some point, all of these products go up and, they're not really selling in stores because everybody who wants them has them. And the one thing I will mention is when we get to the end, we're going to talk about the devil we know versus devil we don't. And a lot of people are like, oh, I hope Hasbro folds or gets bought out. We have to be very careful. So even though Hasbro has messed up a lot of things in most of our opinions, at least we know what they're going to do. If they start missing numbers and the stock goes to $50, they're going to get bought by somebody. God forbid it's GameStop, Fanatics, that clown show, gets bought out by private equity. They're going to put so much leverage on there. They're going to print the living shit out of this so they don't bankrupt it. I'm kind of rooting for them to succeed because the devil we don't know is terrifying. And, when you have a business selling product, running an LGS, doing all these different things, when one of your anchor tenants decides to completely change its business model, it's scary shit. So let's go down, hit the last item here. So Strixhaven, I just want to talk about the number of SKUs. So we have these theme decks that I guess they were okay for Lauren, but we had these again, pre-release play boosters, draft nights. I don't know those of you who saw, but the number of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles draft nights is multiples of how many we got for Lorman, probably because they held back Lorman. They were selling them on Amazon. Now we have Commander decks. Now this is 5 versus 4. So the price on these were like $155. Distro price. So that's another way where they can generate a little bit extra revenue, throw that extra deck in there. Collector boxes, bundle. And then we have this Codex bundle. So this Codex bundle is effectively, it looks like a gift bundle. Looks kind of cool, but I think it's 6 packs and 1 collector pack as opposed to a normal one that's 9 in 1, I think. So it's a little weird. But then I want to go to Marvel. And this is where you can see front and center. They know they're screwed with Final Fantasy. So they're going straight to the, let's take this up a little bit. They're going straight to the Avatar playbook. Let me squish this down a little bit. And there's not only releasing every single SKU they did for Avatar, but they're also releasing collector commanders. So they know they have to push as much of this goddamn product into the market as possible, or they have a snowball's chance in hell of getting into their number. So you have the gift bundle, which is obviously delayed. You have the beginner box. The fact that they even make these, the amount of landfill space that these things take up is just astronomical. You have the regular bundle. Now you have the collector booster. You have the commanders. Again, you have 4 commanders. So now all of a sudden that they need money, they're doing 4 commanders just to make sure it's super interesting. You have the collector commanders. Here, regular commanders, collector commanders. You have the draft nights. You have Jumpstart. Fucking Jumpstart. Like, I never want to see Jumpstart again. I'm so sick of it with Avatar. Ripping the outside pack and then the cellophane. It just makes my brain crack. You have the play boosters pre-release, and then you have the scene boxes. So they are lining up, literally, because they need to hit a number that's going to be greater than this. And right now, you only have these two sets. Marvel on its best day is not going to top Final Fantasy. And, Strixhaven, probably going to be a little bit better than Tarkir just in overall sales because, look, this is a growing industry where the total addressable market is growing relatively quickly because everybody's into TCGs. Now, Magic's probably not growing as much as everything else because the performance of the product is not what One Piece is. It's not what Pokemon is, not what Gundam is. It's not what a lot of games are because they print so fucking much product. It doesn't have time to breathe and age because Hasbro is like the Bernie Sanders meme. If you have $20 and I have $20, I have $40. And they don't want you to have any value. They want to take it all from themselves because that's what they have to do. If they don't do that, they risk getting taken out. And all of those motherfuckers at the top are going to get fired. And quite honestly, if I was on the corporate side, I'd be doing the same thing. Now, I would be trying to fix the rest of the business, which is a flaming bag of shit. You can't blame everything on tariffs. You can't blame everything on China. At some point, you have to make stuff that kids want. And it looks like they're really not doing that. So anyway, guys, I wanted to walk through some details here. I know Rudy just put out a video. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet on the dirty secret of Secret Lair. But now you can see secret layers are created to fill in the gaps here. And that's it. There is going to be a blitzkrieg of secret layers from now till the end of March. And I can't imagine how much Amazon dumping we're going to see starting in 3 weeks because it's going to be absolutely batshit crazy. So anyway, guys, hopefully this was interesting. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and enjoy the Super Bowl tomorrow.